Who is Jesus Christ? That's our series topic, and today's the second video, how Jesus started his ministry. Last time, I hope you watched the first video, was how Mary became his mother, but today we're looking at how he started his ministry. Now, when he was growing up and started his ministry and people started to get to know him, people were asking him one question. This was the question to ask. Are you the prophet? Because 1,400 years before the birth of Christ, Moses, the respected leader of the Jewish people, led them out from Egypt, led the Exodus out from Egypt. He made a prophecy. In Deuteronomy 18:18, he said, "The Lord will raise up another prophet like me from amongst the people, and that God will put his words in his mouth and he would teach the people." So Moses made this prophetic statement just before he died at the age of 120, and it was 1,400 years before Christ's birth. So people were asking when he did start his ministry, are you the prophet? That was the question to ask. Now, bear that in mind, and let's see what happened as he grew up. Well, nothing much is recorded about Jesus until the age of 12. Now, at the age of 12, it's known as the age of responsibility, or the Jewish children go through what's called a bar mitzvah, and they take on responsibility of being a young adult. And the family went up to Jerusalem at the age of 12, Jesus was, for the feast of Passover. And when he got to the temple, he got wanted into the temple because he wanted to meet the rabbis. So they got to Jerusalem, Jesus went in the temple, started talking to the rabbis. Now, he was talking to the rabbis as a 12-year-old, and the rabbis were astonished at the questions he was asking, the insight that he had, and the way in which he could answer the questions, not just ask them, but answer them. And so he stayed there talking to them, and the feast was over, so Mary and Joseph and the company went back to Nazareth. And Joseph and Mary thought that Jesus was in the caravan, in the group of people, the caravan of people. He wasn't there. So they went back to Jerusalem looking for him, and they were a little bit annoyed, and they said, "What are you doing? You know, we've been looking for you, wonder where you were." And this was Jesus's answer. You can find all that in Luke chapter 1 and verses 41 to 49. Now in verse 49, we have Jesus's answer. "What you searched for me for? Didn't you know I must be about my Father's business?" That got Mary thinking. Now, fast forward another 18 years when he was 30. Apparently he led a fairly normal life in the household, probably helping Joseph with his carpentry and so on. And then at the age of 30, he was invited to a wedding at Cana, C-A-N-A. It's not far from Nazareth. And this is recorded in John chapter 2, verses 1 to 11. So if you've got a Bible, it will be good to pause the video and have a look at that section. John 2, verses 1 to 11. At the wedding, Mary, who possibly had been given some kind of responsibility of catering, in other words, making sure there was enough food, and especially wine, she realised that there was no more wine left. So she was anxious, and she said to Jesus, "They've no more wine." And so she said to the servants who were just there, "Listen, whatever he tells you to do to resolve this problem, do it." So Jesus said, "Look, there's 6 big water pots there, and they hold about 20 to 30 gallons of water each. Now, fill them up to the brim with water." So the servants said, "Okay, what's that going to do with the wine?" But they did what he told them to do. And they obeyed, and then he said, "Go and draw the water out and take it to the leader of the feast, the one in charge." They did that. Now the leader of the feast, not knowing about this liquid that was presented to him, he tasted it and he said, "Wow, this is beautiful wine." And he called the bridegroom and he said, most bridegrooms, they leave the the best wine, they drink the best wine first, but you've left the best wine till the last. This is wonderful wine. And the man in charge of the feast and the bridegroom did not know where that wine had come from. Mary knew, of course, and his disciples knew. And it says in John 2 and verse 11, that was recorded, by the way, that piece of drama was recorded in John 2 verses 1 to 11. And in verse 11 it says, this was the first miracle, the very first miracle that Jesus demonstrated his glory. Now, he'd obviously started choosing disciples because some of the disciples were with him for this wedding feast and they believed in him. Well, obviously they're going to believe in him when they see gallons and gallons of wine produced from water. Made a big impression on the men who he'd chosen to be his disciples. And they believed in him and they left their jobs, forsook all and followed Jesus. Now, can you imagine the news of this miracle? I mean, it was spoken about locally and it spread throughout all Galilee, the fact that this man, this rabbi, young rabbi, or prospective rabbi, he had changed water into wine. And the news of it reached the religious rabbis of Jerusalem. Now, they wanted to know what's going on, and in the next video, I'm going to talk to you about one particular rabbi who was full of questions. And he wanted to find out who this young rabbi was and how he was able to do miracles, because obviously he wasn't able to do miracles, and this man was, so he wanted to know why. So that's what we're going to look at next time. Stay with me, because the truth of it is going to change your life. It changed my life when I heard about it at the age of 19. It will change your life also. See you again soon. Bye-bye.